And we're live.
To what Woody was talking about earlier with, like, you would go to swimming and be the guy where they're like, bring in the Woodster, you know, to like jump in and be like the butterfly man. I did something like that, but I was not useful. So obviously Yonas doesn't know the sport. I played growing up was ice hockey, and I played goalie for a huge percentage of it. And when I got to be like 16, the way high schools work is I played for club teams mostly, so I didn't take high school as seriously because the skill's just not there. And I played for the high school team, and they also had they had high school, you know, varsity, JV, and then something called C team. And what C team is in hockey is it's middle schoolers and freshmen and sophomores who are not good enough to play JV or varsity, and so they play in this very low level league. Because, I mean, there's a lot of people who like hockey.
I'm glad that's a thing. It's great that that's a thing because that doesn't exist in a lot of other sports. Like, there was a point when I was like, I can't play baseball anymore. Like, because there's no, like, fun, silly baseball leagues that I'm aware. You can go play softball with a bunch of old dudes, but I'm not going to fucking do that.
This was basically making it. Yeah, it was a full check league. This comes into the story. And they were like, well, you can't play goalie on this team because that's you're not allowed. That'd be unfair. But you can play out. You can play forward if you want. And I'd never got to play forward as like a grown up. I didn't know how to like hit the right mechanics and everything, like all the rules I knew the rules, but I'd never been in a, you know, clash against the board. So I didn't know like how the rules would pan out. So I was like, oh, I'm so excited. I'm going to get to hit. And keep in mind, at this point, the only reason I was allowed to play C team is because they're like, hey, this guy who looks like he's 23, he's actually a junior in high school, and he only plays goalie. So you should make an exception and let him play on the C team. And they're like, oh, he's a goalie. He won't even be able to skate. He'll be fine. Let him play. And so they let me get all dressed out in my stuff. And I was so excited.
I had like where'd that come from?
I wore my dad's gear.
Okay.
And so I wore my dad's stuff, old rusty ass helmet. So like people looking.
This is like something out of Game of Thrones when like the old fat knight comes out and shit's not modern anymore.
Putting it all on, getting my stick, my wooden cheap ass Sherwood stick that my dad's like, I'll just take this. If you break it, who gives a fuck? Well, everybody else has their nice sticks. And in my head, I'm just so excited and a little bit nervous. I'm like, I can't wait to get a hit. I can't fucking wait to get a hit. I've never felt what that feels like before. Rule in hockey, you should know. Charging. You're not allowed to take more than 3 strides towards an opponent because you are on ice and you can get going like 30 miles an hour, and that's how you kill people. And so I didn't fully internalize this rule.
Especially people with rusty helmets.
Yes, and keep in mind, like, it's not like you'd be watching this game and be like, oh man, there's a couple big guys on both teams. Like you would look at it and be like, oh, there must be a handicapped fella over there who's just, you know, a head and shoulders taller than everybody else. and so this guy, you know, we're in their zone, and we had dumped the puck behind the net, and this guy on their team, head down, bad move against me, I'll make you pay the piper. He comes back around the net looking for that puck. I see the opportunity. I don't do what hockey players are supposed to do, where I glide into that area and then maybe take a step and, you know, hit him and knock the puck away. The puck wasn't even on my mind. You know, thankfully the guy picked it up. I just make a beeline, charging for this dude, lower my shoulder and just get him right in the chest, square to the glass. And I shit you not, the glass didn't break. The pane got knocked out. I hit him so fucking hard. And immediately the refs are blowing their shit, and their whole team is coming up on me trying to throw punches and hit me, and I'm like, you know, my bad, man. Like I thought it would be kind of fun, like just easily pushing these kids away, because if you get in a real fight in any non-professional hockey league, they take that super fucking seriously. Like they'll just kick you out of the league, and so I'm like, I'm not gonna drop the gloves and not be able to play anymore as a goalie, and so I just kind of stood there and took it, and then I got it was like 2 minutes into my first shift as a forward, and I got a 5-minute major for a 5-minute major for what was it? Charging, and that was it. It wasn't a 5-minute major at first. It was a 10-minute misconduct, because it was borderline unsportsmanlike conduct how hard I hit this kid. And then the coach said, oh, come on, he doesn't even know how to play out. This is his first time playing out. That's his first hit. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's like, all right, 5-minute major, charging. And so I sat there in the box like the whole time, like, this is fucking awesome. This is great. Like, I do something shit.
If you could have done that every game, would you have?
I would have, because you know what? I had been trained as a goalie that every time my team gets a penalty, I'm like, fuck. All right, guys, I'll bail you out because now we're a man short and I'm going to get shelled. I took that horrible penalty and I was sitting there looking out on the ice and I was like, oh, man, like I did the shitty thing. They all have to pay for it and I get a 5-minute break. So they actually did not let me return and play any more games.
Really?
It was a smart move because
he was playing against 8th graders as a 6'1", 200-pound man. He had a hairy chest like the fucking Wolverine, and he was checking boys through the pane of glass. Of course, they didn't let him play again.
Yeah, like when the refs skate over to be like, "Hey, settle down." I'd be like, "Hey, you're 2 years younger than me. I see you sometimes at the rink." Like,
like you settle down. I'll fuck you up, ref. And he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, Taylor."
Oh, the playoffs.
Oh,
is
man,
it 2-2 in the finals still? I've only been barely keeping up.
2-2. The game may have just started like 50 minutes ago, but yeah, 2-2. Predators, Pens, 2 apiece.
Nice.
Jonas, are you following the NHL playoffs at all, or the NBA playoffs?
Crosby is a beast, man. He's a beast. Been a fan of his for a while, so I'm pulling for him.
Nice. Are you a Pens fan or just overall? Who's your team?
No, just overall, just more about like the individual player when it comes to hockey. I don't watch it too much, but it is my favorite spectator sport. Like in person, seeing hockey is like I think it's just the most exciting. It's fast paced.
You know what I enjoyed about it the most? It was that aspect of the hockey game that you could get hit with a puck at any time. And you get that in baseball games too. And I think you never know in a basketball game when some guy's going to come up in the stands and whip your ass, I guess. But that ain't happened lately.
Our test is retired.
Yeah, every weekend you see a bat get slung in the stands or a foul ball hit an old lady. And the same's true with hockey, except that like hockey takes that shit seriously. I was really surprised. We went to go get beers and we were coming back down in and the guy's like, whoa, they're on the ice. I'm like, yeah, that's why we're coming in. We want to. That's what we're here for. And he's like, and Taylor's like, oh, we can't walk down right now. A puck could fucking take us out as we're walking down the aisle, and then they don't want that to happen. And I was like, yeah, I guess so. I guess
politeness. Like you just weren't
it's
supposed
politeness.
to block people's
yeah, it's a lot of politeness. Is the main reason is that it's very rude to walk down. But I mean, I guess you could make that case too. You don't want to get hit with the puck. But Chiz. Really, like when I told them that, because Chiz and Kyle were not hockey fans, I was like, careful, lady in Columbus like 6 years ago died when she got hit by a puck, and Kyle was like, oh man, that's crazy, that sucks, and then kind of just continued on with watching the game. Chiz very much internalized this, and so every time there was like a clearing attempt, he'd be like, oh, all right, I'm good. I'm good.
He was watching the skies like a man who gets abducted by aliens every weekend. He was just, when's it coming? I know it is. Right in my ass again. Like, he was
my ass again.
I'm glad I agree with Yonas on this Crosby thing because Woody is a Flyers fan. Obviously, Flyers fans hate Sidney Crosby. He's a Crosby
denier.
Crosby sucks.
That's what
it's not a denial thing. Like he's totally a pussy. This is widely known. He complains to refs. He embellishes, and he's dirty as fuck. He broke that guy's finger off.
Almost cut it off.
He did cut off Mark Mathot's finger, but not like
yeah, by slashing him in the fucking hand.
Mark Mathot says it's grown mostly back.
He's a reptilian. Crosby is not the kind of player that you admire, and I'm glad that he's getting his ass kicked lately.
Let me ask you this, Taylor.
I guess I don't watch him enough.
If your son wanted to play like Crosby, would you think that was a good thing? Would you, if you wanted to emulate Sidney Crosby's playing style, wouldn't you sit down with your son and be like, he's the best, but he's kind of like the Ty Cobb of hockey. He's kind of a dick. Watch this. He cuts this man's finger off. You see?
If you have to be as good as Crosby is to get away with like because he has early in his career, he embellished quite a bit and he whined to the refs. To credit to Crosby, like I don't have a dog in the fight because I'm a Blues fan and they're in the fucking East, but he has tamped down the whining and such in the last few years compared to like 08, 09 Crosby when it was like every single play was him going up and chirping at the refs. But man, like the reason he gets away with all that stuff and people are like, yeah, he's still the best in the world is because you watch him play and he's the best in the world. It's not like At this point, it's barely an argument. When people are like, McDavid, he's really coming up on Crosby. Like, if you talk to someone for real, it's going to be like, no, he's not. Not for real. He's not on Crosby's level yet. Maybe a couple years from now he will be, but he's not yet. Like, Crosby's just insanely good. Watch him play with the puck.
He's always in the argument, right? There'll be a year where you're like, you know what? I think this is Ovechkin's the best in hockey this year. Crosby's second. And then Crosby might be first, like if you use some sort of slanted, measuring stick. And then, another year it'll be like, I don't know, some other guy. Malkin seems to be better this year. But it's always like Crosby and the other guy that is the conversation. And he's still a piece of shit. You wouldn't want your child to grow up like Crosby.
No, and I think think about it this way, though. No, you really wouldn't, because you said exactly why, Taylor. You were like, well, he's allowed to get away with that because he plays at that level. And yet you're going to have like a generation of kids emulating this guy and trying to play his style, and they're not going to get away with it. And they might hurt someone. I mostly didn't like, and I don't know shit about hockey, but I've seen that clip of him chopping that man's finger off, and that really didn't strike me well, because it seemed like he was doing harm to that person just to do it. It wasn't like chop his finger or you lose.
I can provide some clarity for that. So what he was doing is those hand slashes, which is basically Mark Mathot was skating with his stick in his hand with the puck, and Crosby went over with his stick and gave a hand slash, which is where you smack the guy's hands really hard, try and get him to drop the puck. You're not allowed to slash people's hands, but it's the most common place they try and give sneaky, shitty slashes.
Wait, he cut his finger through the glove?
Yeah. He cut his finger. He cut the tip of his finger off through the glove, because what happened is usually you get slashed in the hands and it hits your hands. What happened here is it clearly hit the guy's glove, slid down, and then pinched the tip of his finger off between the two sticks. So between his own stick and between Sidney Crosby's stick. And so it wasn't a super dirty play. It was just one of those things where, like, once he took his hand out, it was like, oh, fuck, that guy's finger's gone. Like,
pretty
here you go. Here's a picture of the finger. And I think this is pretty telling, because, when you just hear it at first, you're like, oh, he busted his fingernail, huh? Big whoop. I've hit myself with a hammer before. You're a professional. But then you see this and you're like, oh, that required some medical attention afterwards. They needed to sew that back together. I
just linked
the
video of it. Look at how calmly he starts at, you see it at 18 seconds.
Yeah.
That Mark Mathot just handles the fact that he just had his finger cut off. Like, he looks like the way
that's a hockey thing.
They forgot to put ketchup on your burger.
That's a hockey thing.
Yeah.
I admire that.
Pickles.
So when I played hockey, if you got there early or stayed late and the other team would benefit from another player, usually it was like 10 is a good number to have, 11 sucks. 12 is a good number to have. So if they have 11, 5 more periods on a broken foot, because that's a hockey thing.
Yeah, it's definitely a hockey thing. They play through so much pain. I was thinking about what Kyle said there, where you were like, well, yeah, I mean, if you go to a basketball game, they might come up into the stands and fuck with
your
you.
Ass.
So I just linked a video of, in 1979, Mike Milbury, the guy who was still the commentator on fucking ESPN or, whatever the fucking net that they play the hockey games on, still in the business. He and the Boston Bruins in 1979 got into a fight and went up into the stands and fought with fans.
Yeah, I've seen that before.
In full gear.
Well, I don't understand why you'd ever take the gear off. Like, I get it if you're going to face off against an opponent. Like, that makes sense. But if you're going to go in the stands and fight, they fucked with the wrong one already, right? So wear your armor, you take the skates off if it's easier, but leave them on, because maybe you can slash somebody with those at some point. It'd be hard to beat up a guy in hockey pads. If you're a better fighter,
especially if it's an NHL player.
I would like to see this in action, right? Like, I'd like to see fighters pitted against one another. One of them is like, I don't know, a blue belt or something, and the other is like a brown belt, but the blue belt's wearing hockey pads. like, he's fucking armed. So like most of your striking doesn't work anymore. I'd like to see that. Little armor to the mix.